Anything from your discussion that you want to follow up on that came up? Nothing? Okay. So I thought I'd go on just talking a little bit more about happiness. Last time we were getting into, because if we want to have love, which is wishing others to have happiness and its causes, we should know exactly what it is we're wishing them. Okay, and so as we saw, there's different kinds of happiness that come from different kinds of causes. And then we talked about how different kinds, what we do in response to happiness, and how we can sometimes use it to create the cause for more suffering, or we can use our happiness to create the causes for more happiness. And that's a very important point, because that's the situation we live in right now. We're experiencing the result of an incredible amount of good karma that we created in many previous lives, because we have a precious human life. We have all the conditions to be able to practice. So we're reaping the fruit of a lot of goodness created in the past. And the question is, what are we doing with it? Because once the karma ripens, that karma's fruited. It's over. So are we replenishing our karmic stores, so to speak, or are we just consuming our past karma and good karma, and not making any good plans for the future? So this is quite an important point, and this is why the teachers and teachings stress so much contemplating precious human life, so that we will see the rare fortune that we have and make good use of it, and not just fritter it away and use it to create the cause for more suffering. Because when you look at what most of the world is doing, not all human beings have precious human lives, but they did create ethical conduct in previous lives, because that's how they got a human body. So, they're experiencing the result of previous positive karma, consuming that karma, but then to look around and say, how are most people using it? Their precious human life. How are we using our precious human life? Are we, practicing ethical conduct to be able to have another, body in a fortunate realm in the future? Or are we, just kind of haphazard with our ethical conduct, and then because of greed or anger, pride or jealousy, are we creating a lot of causes for an unfortunate rebirth in the future? Okay, so it's helpful to kind of look in the world and see, what the situation is. And you see people, let's say, who are they have a human life, so practice ethical conduct. They're good looking. They practice fortitude and patience. They're wealthy. They practice generosity. They're successful in their projects. They practice joyous effort. And then what do? And some of them, cheat other people, or lie to other people, or sleep around, or, do any number of things that it is considered kind of normal, and you just hope you don't get caught. Because as long as you don't get caught, you still have your good reputation. Yes, you have to work hard at not getting caught. But, in terms of getting caught karmically, forget it. You don't even care, As long as I'm having a good time and this is bringing me pleasure and, advancing my career or my fame or my, happiness in this life, I don't think about karma. I just do whatever I want. Feels good now, do it. My generation's brand. Feels good, do it. And create a ton of negative karma, but pretend you aren't. Yeah, just ignore it, deny it, rationalize it, say it's not really negative. And anyway, if it is, I can purify it. Yeah, I can purify it. I can do a few vajrasattva here and there, a few prostrations here and there. The fact that I'm distracted when I do most of those doesn't matter. Yeah? So we, don't take care with using the fortunate circumstances, the happy circumstances we have, to create the cause for more. Yeah, and so often human beings just use it to create the cause for more suffering. You know, we can look at, any number of, world leaders. Yeah, any number of rich, famous people. How are they? What are they doing? So, some of them are quite generous, and that's really, really admirable. And it's something to rejoice in, because they're really using their wealth to create the cause for more wealth. Yeah, or they're very active in social welfare projects or whatever. Yeah, or some of them even renounce. Can you imagine that? Like the Buddha. Yeah. So, then it's really cause for rejoicing. But, the thing is, we have to not think of happiness as some isolated thing, but see that it's something that arises due to causes and conditions. It's a dependently arising thing. Yeah? So, what are the causes and conditions? And are we creating those causes and conditions? And so when we wish, may all sentient beings have happiness and its causes, we're wishing them also to keep good ethical conduct, to practice generosity, to practice patience and fortitude, to practice joy, effort, and meditative stability and wisdom, to really engage in activities and in Dharma practice that will create the causes for what they want. Now, of course, if what they want is the happiness in samsara, that's one set of causes. If they want the happiness that comes from liberation, it's another set. If they want the happiness that comes from full awakening, that's another set of causes. There is some overlap, because clearly if you want full awakening, you also need to create the causes for a good rebirth so that you can continue to practice. But the thing is, if you have a bodhicitta motivation, and this is why we spend so much time at the beginning of meditation sessions and so forth generating the bodhicitta. If we have the bodhicitta motivation, then we create a tremendous amount of merit, and although that merit is aimed at full awakening, a byproduct is a good rebirth, so that we can continue to create more merit. Okay, so that's why having that altruistic intention in our mind, and really setting that all the time is so important. Yeah. Okay, so happiness and ethical conduct are related. Yeah, very close relationships. Did anybody teach us that when we were little? Sometimes they may have. If you're a good boy or a good girl, God will reward you, or maybe you'll get some more chocolate for Christmas, or that might be bribery, but our parents are bribing us. If you're good, you get a nicer Christmas present. But I don't think that connection was made so clear to most of us. Yeah, because there was always the backdrop of, well, if you do negative things and don't get caught, it doesn't matter. That doesn't lead to suffering. Yeah, good things lead to happiness because mom and dad want you to be good. But if you're bad, that you could say you're taught it's naughty, but you're also taught try and get away with it, aren't you? No?
And you wouldn't get away with it because it's like God knows.
Yeah, but the thing is, what you're taught and what is modeled for you. That's what I'm talking about. What we're all taught is that you can't get out of your negative karma, your negative actions. But what is modeled for us in our families? Yeah, there's a difference, isn't there? Yeah. So what we're taught is one thing, but what we see adults doing is a different thing. Do kids learn by seeing or by being told? What are they going to learn more by? They're going to watch. Yeah. My parents always said, do as I say, not as I do. But it doesn't work. Yeah. So there's this thing of, okay, if I can just finagle my way through and not get caught or not have anybody know, then it's not really the cause of suffering. Because we aren't really thinking of karma, we're just thinking of getting caught in a worldly sense. You get what I mean? You don't get what I mean.
Well, I just think there was a lot of good modeling in terms of trying to get to heaven.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to practice, say, the Ten Commandments or other spiritual practices that were handed down. And I guess I was just fortunate to see a lot of good modeling in my community.
Yeah, that might have been really, a few exceptional people may have had very, very good modeling from the adults. How many of you had good modeling for? Like 100% good modeling? The adults around you, they never lied, they never stole, they never did these other things?
They weren't all just not virtue. There was modeling a mixed bag.
Yeah, there was a modeling of a mixed bag. But what I'm saying is we most of us didn't have the perfect modeling. Yeah.
What I struggled with the conflict is that the priest on Sunday would talk about love and compassion and kindness, and I come home to an extremely volatile, wild, chaotic life.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I just had this talk from Father Bonner about love, and you're wailing on me.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
But there's also a lot of honesty and kindness as far as generosity and kind to neighbors and things like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. Yeah.
I think what's hard is this phrase, getting away with it, because in my family, nobody thought they were getting away with it. It was just like a failure. Like, here's the standard, the Ten Commandments, and everything's being tallied in heaven, and that's not going to change. Hell, purgatory, or heaven.
Yeah.
And you don't really get away with it. It's just that you can't ever live up to it. So then there's this sort of feeling of constant.
Okay, but
so I'm confused
okay.
about this getting.
Okay, what I'm getting at is you're taught this in relationship to God.
Right.
People act on a human plane, and if you don't get in trouble on the human plane, the police don't come after you. You're taught, don't drink, don't, throw things at your kids, be kind to people. But then your parents are drinking and throwing things at your kids and going crazy, and they're not necessarily thinking, I'm creating negative, I'm doing something negative. They may think, well, God may not be happy with me. But the idea is the police aren't coming after them. So as long as the police don't come after you, you can in some way, not, you can in some way think that you're not going to have to experience the result. Or maybe I just had a very different upbringing from other people. Okay, so maybe we all had very different upbringings about this kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it could be that people had very different things, yeah.
Our family motto was like yours. It's only illegal if you get caught.
Mm-hmm.
It's bad if you get caught. Otherwise, it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it was. I was taught, don't lie, don't do this and this and this and this. Okay. But then I saw people doing that and that and that. But as long as, the police didn't come, it wasn't anything to worry about. Yeah. So maybe looks like people had very different conditioning in their families about that kind of thing. Yeah. Anyway. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was just going to say that they just had this expression when I was growing up was like getting over.
Getting over?
Getting over. Yeah. So meaning that you're going to get away with something, and so it's a good thing if you can like get over on people. You can you can cheat them, lie to them, whatever. But it was like seen as a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was nothing about even people do their Sunday church kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But there was this big disconnect.
Right. If you can overcharge people and they're willing to pay it.
It's their fault for being a fool.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I think too that there's some differences between the genders of the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's things like boys will be boys, while boys get away with different kinds of things.
Ah.
than girls.
Yes.
And that actually I think that we've criminalized boy behavior in recent years, so that even the things that boys could do when they're in the 50s, 60s, 80s, and 70s, now they get on probation, they
Mm.
get detention. Things are thought of, that kind of behavior is no longer, well, it requires some outside legal intervention.
Mm. Yeah. What kinds of things?
Well, fighting at school. In the old days,
Oh,
they
right.
separated them, now they call the police.
Ah.
Say something bad to a teacher, it
Uh-huh.
can be a threat, and it's an assault, a verbal assault by the police.
Ah. Right. Yes.
Isn't bullying
Yeah.
kind of a thing?
Oh, right. Yeah. When we were little, bullying was, just go fight it out. And, yeah.
See, if you walk home intoxicated, you'll be thrown in jail,
Mm.
which is preposterous.
Underage possession of alcohol. When I was growing up, if you got stopped, the cops would just take it, pour it out in front of you and tell you to get home.
Or they
I'm not for that, take it home.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I think that was the big change.
Uh-huh.
My high school versus my son's high school,
Mm-hmm.
there were never two police cars in front of my
Uh-huh.
high school all the time.
Yeah.
With either an active officer or two officers on duty,
Yeah.
on premises. So,
Yeah. Yeah. They call this the degenerate age.
My high school had barbed wire fence around the whole entire school.
Huh. Huh. Yeah. Uh-huh.
I'm kind of contemplating, I grew up basically in a post-socialistic age,
Mm-hmm.
and the environment was actually very ethical, and I'm just wondering what it was kind of pinned on, because it wasn't on religion.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a feeling of if you are not like doing those ethical things, then you're kind of pulling out of like on the path or something. It's not the label, but just kind of like if you're not doing this, then you're not.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, so maybe it wasn't pinned on religion, but it was pinned on what's socially acceptable to the community. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, just to, for us, the reason I was bringing this up is for us to look at our attitude towards ethical conduct. Do we have the attitude that as long as the police don't catch us, it's not really negative? Yeah.
Or the IRS.
Yeah. Right. Or as long as the IRS doesn't catch you, or as long as your husband and wife don't catch you, or as long as somebody else doesn't know. I mean, look at John Edwards. He did all these things, and as long as nobody knew, he didn't feel like he was doing anything wrong. Yeah. And then it was afterwards he said, well, I sinned, but I didn't do anything illegal. Yeah. So, yeah. So I'm just talking about how we explain things to ourselves. What kind of standard do we hold ourselves to? Yeah. Okay. So, in any case, somebody who harms other people and destroys their happiness is going to experience unhappiness. Just seeing if you're awake. Joking. Yeah. Okay. So somebody who keeps good ethical conduct, they have an immediate sense of happiness because when they go to bed at night, they don't have to worry about anything. Yeah, because everything they've done is completely above board, so they don't have to worry. Also, there's a sense of what they call blamelessness. In other words, you didn't break any precepts. You didn't do anything that other people are going to, consider horrible or suffer from. So you don't have to worry about other people blaming you, unless of course they have a grudge. But normally, but in your own heart, you haven't done anything blameworthy. So you can be at peace with yourself, even if other people accuse you or do all sorts of things. There's a sense of blamelessness in one's own heart, and you can go to bed at night and your mind is peaceful. You're not worried about getting found out. This one inmate that I wrote to, the one who had made millions in the drug trade, towards the end of his career. Of course, he didn't know that it was ending. He was getting a bit kind of too big for his britches. He stored all of his drug stuff in one of the, what do you call them? The little, the little storage units. He had all his drug paraphernalia in one of those, and had picked it up and was driving up to do his last big deal, which was going to, pay for everything forever. And he wound up paying for everything for, 16 years. Yeah. So, there wasn't that sense of blamelessness in his life, because when he was coming back, he had heard that they were looking for him, so he left the country. Then he came back. Then, he wanted to do this one last deal, so he got his stuff out of his storage unit, and he's driving up the coast with it. And, this feeling of, well, I don't know if the police are going to come, but I don't really think so. They're not that smart to catch me. And boing, there it went. And then the disappointment he had of so many of his friends turning on him. Yeah, because when you are a rich drug dealer, people love you, and when you get busted, your friends will testify against you. Yeah. So, not only the sense of blamefulness, but also how awful that was to find out the people he thought he trusted would turn on him. But then it's so interesting because in this kind of context, we usually think, people who do illegal things, they don't have any sense of ethical conduct, but they do. And as inmates, there are things that you do and things that you don't do, and there is an ethical code, and the other inmates will hold you to it. Yeah, and one thing you don't do is you don't snitch on anybody. Okay, but his friends turned against him, and then he had, some of his real estate was in their names, and they kept the stuff, and all sorts of things happened. Yeah. And the basic cause was greed. Basic cause was greed, So,
when you talk about blameless, well, not having a sense of blamelessness as a result of poor ethical conduct, I'm wondering if this deep-seated kind of self-hate that can that also be, even if I'm not thinking about, can't sleep at night or something, could that also be from really poor ethical conduct?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I think sometimes the deep-seated self-hatred is because we've never made peace with what we did in the past. We never purified it. We just kind of explained it away or tried to explain it away, but then wind up thinking very poorly of ourselves because of it.
Lifetimes.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it could be through lifetimes, but also from this life. Yeah, because I think a lot of the things that, when people, not everything, but many things, why people go to seek counseling and all is because there's some kind of ethical conflict in their minds. They did something that they don't feel good about having done. Yeah. So. Mm-hmm.
I'm curious. Ever since I was little, I can remember knowing if something was right or wrong just because inside it felt whether it was right or wrong, whether you got caught or not.
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
Okay, so this sense of what we call conscientiousness or respect for ethical conduct, yeah, it's a mental factor. And I think when you have it when you're little, it's because in previous lives you developed it, and you had respect for ethical conduct, and you had, a mind that wanted to keep that. Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, can you kind of expand the karma and relationship ethics to a kind of a whole society?
Well, can you expand karma to a whole society? We can expand it to groups and say that, the groups that we participate in for a certain motivation, we create some kind of group karma that we will experience the result of as a group.
See, I'm thinking about the United States as a group.
Yeah. Well, okay, so if you're thinking of the U.S. as a group, there it would depend on whether we advocate what the country is doing. Okay? Because if there's some groups we choose to join because we agree with the purposes, and there we accumulate whatever action even other people of the group are doing. Okay? But there's other groups where we didn't choose to be born in, like, our nationality. So there, if we don't agree what the rest of the group is doing, we don't accumulate that kind of karma. Okay? So there are some discourses that the Buddha gave where he talked about worldly happiness, because he realized that some of his followers, that was, what their disposition in this particular life, that's what they wanted, and he wanted to help them, direct them towards worldly happiness, which would not entail them creating negative karma or experiencing blame in this life or tragedy in this life or future lives, unless, of course, it's a result of a previous karma ripening. Okay? So he talked about 4 kinds of happiness that householders can have from rightfully undertaking their livelihood. Yeah, so he talked a lot to householders about what right livelihood is. He talked about the right livelihood to monastics also. But the 4 kinds of happiness that householders can expect from having right livelihood are, first, the happiness of accumulating wealth by their own effort. So there's this, when it's wealth you've accumulated by your own effort, there's a certain sense of feeling like an efficacious person. I worked, I earned this, I didn't mooch off of somebody, and so there's some kind of you feel good about yourself for having worked and earned it. So that's one kind of happiness. The second kind is the happiness of using this wealth to give pleasure to themselves and to do more meritorious deeds. So you've earned the money, and then how do you use it? There's happiness that comes from using it for yourself, and then also using it to create merit. So you might be using it for yourself, for the happiness of this life, but you're also might be using it to create merit for yourself, but that merit is for the happiness of future lives, or for liberation, or for full awakening. Yeah? And so you see people who, they really use their wealth in a very positive way to create a lot of merit. Yeah, whether people have a lot of wealth or a little wealth, it doesn't matter. It's their motivation and how they use it. Because people can give a lot of wealth, but with a very selfish motivation. Yeah, or people cannot have very much wealth, but what they give, they have a very good motivation. Just as one small example of the latter, one young woman had been at the Abbey some years ago, and she didn't have much money, but she left some dana, and then she went off to do retreat and so on, and then we got a letter from her, not too long ago, just saying how she was and everything, and then saying, I really would like, for a long time I've wanted to offer a lot to Sravasti Abbey, but I just don't have very much. And I was talking to one Geshe after teachings, and he said it's better to give now while you have it, because you don't know if you're in the future. So here's my $20, But it was like such a beautiful intention on her part. It was like, I have a precious human life. I don't have much, but I want to give something. Then, a week later, we got a $5 donation from somebody who used to live here, who said, because we put, Amanda's article on the website. And so John saw it, and he said, I read her article, and I don't have very much money, but I really need to give something too while I have it. And so here's my $5, But it was so beautiful, because with both of them, the intention, was an intention that really believed in karma. Yeah, it was a donation that came from a very deep belief that causes bring results, and that there's an ethical dimension to our actions, and they didn't want to waste their opportunity, because they had some awareness that the opportunity may not last forever. Well, it will not last forever. Okay? So even though they didn't have much, the motivation was so really beautiful. Okay? And then, other people give, what they have according to what they feel. Everybody's so different in this way. Yeah? Then you have the people who are quite wealthy, but there's a story that the Tibetans tell, because usually after a lama would give teachings or an initiation, people would come up and make offerings. But when you're taking an initiation, the lama's always saying, visualize this and visualize this, and because an initiation, visualize Chenrezig, and light is going from Chenrezig into you, and visualize this and this and this. Okay, so these people are coming up after the initiation to make offerings to him. And one man who I think had some money, this was in old Tibet, had some money, but he came and he had a brick of tea, and he said, visualize that this is 1 billion bricks of tea, Yeah, because he didn't want to give that much. He just told the Lama, because the Lama was telling him to visualize. He said, visualize it's 1 million bricks of tea. Yeah. So that's not the way we want to be, okay? Yeah. Okay. Then, but there's happiness that comes from using your wealth to create good karma. Yeah? And I think, so many of us are concerned about our elderly parents, and, what are our elderly parents creating good karma? What's going to happen to them when they die? This kind of thing. And if we can encourage them to be generous, send even it's $10 or whatever they want. Send something to a charity that you love, Mom and Dad. Because generosity is something that everybody respects and everybody practices, whether they're religious or not. So if we really want to help our family members, we encourage them this way. And then when our parents die, we don't have to worry so much, because we know, they created some good karma. Or you somehow drag them along to a teaching that His Holiness is giving, or, somehow plant some karmic seeds in their mind. Leave a Dharma book around, and maybe they pick it up and read a chapter. Yeah. But these are all ways just to, plant some kind of seeds in people's minds. Okay, so that was the second happiness. The third is the happiness of being free from debt. The Buddha said this 26 centuries ago. Yeah? So it's the same thing. I mean, how stressed people are nowadays because of their debts, because they overspent and, didn't plan, and also because the system is structured such that it keeps enticing you. So it's coming from the side of the system, but it's also coming from you, It's like nobody makes us take out our credit card and pay something. It's our own attachment that does. So it's, something coming from them, but it's also something coming from us. But anyway, the happiness of being free of debt, that's a huge happiness, isn't it? It gives you so much freedom in your life. We have young people coming to the Abbey who want to ordain. They have $20,000 in school debt. One young woman had $70,000 in school debt to get a BA. They're interested in the Dharma. They want to practice. They're stuck. Yeah. So there's a real, blessing that comes from being free from debt. Mm-hmm.
Just a question, because I'm hearing this through the filter of the Western culture where we are, as Westerners, and in so many countries there, or even I'm thinking about, people that are forced into debt, that that indentured kind of thing occurs. There was, like you read about that quite a bit. And just that forced debt structure.
Yep.
That's not their immediate doing. I don't know if you would say it's a social karmic thing that's happened, or
yeah. Okay, so when people are forced into, like, let's say into the sex trade, or
the article I was watching was on the shrimp industry in Thailand. How a lot of the people from Burma would come in, and then they'd get into a state, and then they would be trapped in this job.
Right.
In an enslavement kind of mentality.
Yeah.
Physically.
Yeah, and this happens to many Hispanics trying to get into the U.S. You pay.
It's not uncommon.
Yeah, it's not uncommon. So that is, the result of somebody's individual karma, that they got hooked into that kind of thing. The fact that exists in our society as a whole is, or the fact that we live in a society that has something to do with our individual karma. But the people who are causing other people suffering through those kinds of structures, whether they're legal or illegal, are creating negative karma. Yeah.
I think I just wanted to make the point that we think of credit card debt, but there is
many other kinds of debt.
That exist that's different from the credit card mentality.
Right. Yeah, I'm speaking of credit card debt because I think it probably, I don't know that anybody here got into the country by paying a middleman and is, I mean, the kind of situation you're talking about is quite real, but I wasn't assuming anybody here had that situation, so that's why I didn't give it as an example. But it's very much real, and we need to be aware of it. Yeah. Okay, and then the fourth happiness is the happiness of being free from blame. Okay? So, again, earning one's livelihood legally, you know, and so not having any kind of blame. Okay, and so the people who use rightly gained wealth in a proper way bring happiness to themselves and happiness to others. Yeah, I mean, we see that. Okay, but the main kind of happiness that we want to work for is the happiness that comes from training our mind. So also when we say may sentient beings have happiness and its causes, we're not just talking about these four kinds of happiness that lay people can expect from the right livelihood, but we're especially, you know, wanting sentient beings to know the Dharma, and so to know how to practice it, how to create good karma, how to avoid, destructive karma. And, you know, may they have the opportunity to meet the Dharma. And not only meet the Dharma, may they, in their own hearts, feel a connection to the Dharma. Because many people meet the Dharma, they don't have any feeling of connection in their heart. Or they have a very small feeling of connection, and it kind of evaporates. You know, you have people living in Bodh Gaya, the holiest place on the planet, you know, who go there to sell trinkets to earn their living, but have no, you know, they may meet even, you know, fantastic, spiritual teachers, but they don't care. They're just there to earn their living. Yeah? So in one way, they've created good karma to be there in Bodh Gaya, and another way, they're lacking one important factor of a precious human life, which is having interest from their own side. Yeah. I've met many people, you know, one of my teachers, he coughs a lot and his English is not fantastic. And, you know, many people go and they say, I can't understand him. Yeah, and they leave. They have that karma, they can't understand him, or they aren't willing to make the effort. They don't want a teaching that's in Tibet English. You know, they want a teaching in perfect English. Yeah, so they leave. Yeah, or we have a joke here at the Abbey of, don't believe it until you see the whites of their eyes, because so many people write and tell us they're coming, and they don't make it. They cancel. Something else comes up. They get distracted. Who knows what? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how many cancellations there were for this retreat, but, you know, there were a number of people who wanted to come and then canceled at the end.
There were 6.
Yeah. Okay. Or we've even had people get all the way to the Abbey and not be able to make it to the meditation hall. Yeah. We've gotten people sometimes, they get here. Yeah, they get out of their vehicle, they have a cup of tea, and then they say, I'm going. And they had planned on staying for several days or a week or for the length of a retreat, and they just say, I'm going. You know, there's some kind of karma there. It's happened many times. Yeah.
I've got to say that it must be Mara or something that's hard at work, because every time I come here, I have like 2 or 3 days of intense wishing that I wasn't here, and not sleeping, and all kinds of bad things. Thinking, in the morning I'm getting in my car and I'm leaving, and then I get a migraine, and all kinds of things happen. But you just have to tough it out.
Exactly. He said you're not the only one. Yeah.
I'm not sure what it is, but there's just something that you have to get over.
Yeah?
Or having a cup of tea and they're feeling that already, but maybe they've never had those feelings before. Maybe they don't know that there's some deep resistance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a good question, you know, how many people, I mean, I honestly, in the first 2 days, was just watching my mind, this very interesting resistance coming up.
Yeah.
And I attribute it to, on the one hand, I attribute the training to be able to see it.
Mm-hmm.
The discursiveness is still there.
Yeah.
And creating, you know, even bodily sensations and things like that. And just trying to sit with it and say, stay.
Yeah. Right.
Not run, not get up and say to yourself, give me my cell phone.
People come take their cell phone and not tell.
Yeah.
But then about the Tara, everything just kind of like smoothed out.
Yeah. Yeah. This happens, doesn't it? Yep.
Well,
It's not unique.
I was thinking about this the other night because I was so excited about coming. I felt so honored. I couldn't even believe it. You know, I kind of made a last minute decision. I didn't know if I was going to get to come. Everything fell into place. I'm like, wow. Oh, and I was more excited about coming to this than I've been for a lot of things. I'm like, what? Because I'm not. I mean, I'm kind of a solitary person. Every now and then a group thing is really cool, but I'm kind of not sure about them always. But so I really, and then when I'm driving here, I'm going, oh, I don't know. It's so true. And I actually came through where I grew up, because it's kind of on my way. You have to take the back road, but. And I'm like, oh, I could just go camp on my land.
Yeah.
Out for 8 days instead of going to the little retreat. But I do a lot of journaling, and what it was for me is I knew it was going to change my life. I knew that there's no going back to the old crap I've been doing. And I'm real comfortable with my old crap, but so.
Yeah.
I knew that. I think there's like the inner sense or something. I mean, I didn't know that until I journaled about it just the other night.
Yeah.
Because of what I experienced, it's already changed. I can't go back.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't go back, can you?
But it's scary.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing for everybody to remember, right? I go through that too, Cindy, sometimes. When my first day here, I'm always sleeping. I can't stay awake the first day. But it's those 3 days when you leave. Now, how do people feel, man? I mean, you are on top of the world. The energy, the inner strength, the wanting to go out and just be the best you can be. You get back into town, nothing bothers you. You've got all this power within. And I find it's starting to last a bit longer and longer with each trip that I make up here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, no one likes sitting in a meditation hall when you're sick and you have allergies. And yeah, you'd rather fall asleep in bed and curl up, but this is going to be the end result. But that's what makes the difference between people that are willing to undergo a little bit of discomfort, and then there's a huge reward at the end, versus those that simply won't do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I didn't realize it was a silent retreat.
Well, it's not very silent now.
Until Susan told me on the tour, I didn't really get it. And then Mark and I carpooled together, but we didn't know each other before, so I went up to him and I said, he goes, yeah. So I feel like, I might not have come if I, if I had read the fine print. I'm sure that, I'm sure it said somewhere on there that it was.
Yeah.
So I just think, I just needed to come anyway. And this was the only way to get me there was to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I have to share a little bit about this morning because this happened to me one of the other times that I came on retreat in the morning that I woke up and I was dizzy and like just walking was kind of like wobbly and I was sweating and I was going to throw up and so I knew that I told Venerable Chickmane, I don't think I can do this. I think I'm going to throw up. She said, why don't you just stay here? But, it was just kind of like, well, what's that all about? Is it just, I could make the excuse that it was maybe dehydration or something, but it's not my usual MO of how I react to my environment. And I really was sick. I wasn't just kind of like saying I wanted to sleep in because I couldn't even get that far.
Yeah, but this happens when you're doing something virtuous. It's so often, like when His Holiness teaches, so often in India, everybody gets sick. There's the cold or flu that just goes around the audience of thousands of people, and everybody just sees it as purification. Yeah? Because you're trying to do something virtuous with a good motivation. And so the negative karma ripens. So you think this is just, some negative karma, and thank goodness it's ripening now. You felt sick for a little while, you're fine now. It certainly beats being born in the hell realms for a few eons. So you look at it that way and you think, I was able to purify some kind of negative karma. And it wasn't that bad. It's like, the thing is, if you feel sick, leaving isn't going to make you feel well.
I never
Yeah.
through it, and then that did cross my mind that this was, it's either dehydration or Vajrasattva last night really was intense.
Uh-huh.
And so that was some purification.
Yeah, it happens like that. Okay, we didn't get very far this session. I had wanted to finish all of this. Like I said, when you have a plan, you know what won't happen. Okay, so what did we talk about? We talked about the ethical dimension of our actions and how that relates to what we experienced. We talked a little bit about the kind of modeling that we had when we were little. Not only the religious ideals we were taught, but what we actually saw people doing. Okay? We talked about those 4 kinds of happiness that a person who earns their livelihood by right means can expect.
We also talked about the reason why we spend so much time generating virtue and motivation, altruistic intention, is also creating merit for fortune and virtue.
Yeah, right.
The good effects of ethics.
Mm-hmm.
Inner peace and blameless.
Yeah, so the benefits of keeping good ethical conduct.
Our attitude towards ethical conduct.
Yeah, very much our attitude. Is it something to bargain with, or is it something to practice?
4 kinds of worldly happiness for householders.
Yeah.
Livelihood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those 4.
Well, self-hate can be a result of...
Oh, yeah, and how putting ourselves down, or sometimes inner turmoil. Yeah, guilt, or just some kind of inner turmoil can be the result of ethical misconduct in some way. Okay.
Conscientiousness as a mental factor.
Right, Yeah, the importance of strengthening our mental factor of conscientiousness so we can carry that from one life to the next. Yeah, and blamelessness.
What kind of standard I want to hold myself to?
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's have 15 minutes of silent meditation on these topics.